Hello again on behalf of the Mindalia TV team. Welcome to Mindalia live streaming. Today we count with the company of Joshua Shapiro in the space that has been named Beyond the Physical Reality. Joshua Shapiro is a crystal skull explorer. He is a researcher and a speaker. Before starting with him, we just want to remind you that Mindalia is an international non-profit organization and that you can collaborate with us just by liking this channel, sharing our content with someone that you think that may benefit or like what we are developing here. Let's not delay this any further. I have the pleasure of leaving you now with Joshua Shapiro. Joshua, welcome to Mindalia. The screen is all yours.
Thank you so much, Myrna. This is my second time to be on your show, so it is a great honor and privilege. The first time I remember talking more about the paranormal, but today what I will try to cover more is about the crystal skulls, which is what I'm involved in very much over 37 years. Talk a little bit about the paranormal, and then we have to discuss a little bit about what's happening in the world, because I think for all of us, none of us have ever lived in a time like we're going through. However, I will try to share from a more positive perspective of what I think is going on and where we're headed, and I'll tell you the reason why, because I've had some personal experiences. But first, let's start just briefly a little background. How did I get involved with crystal skulls? What are crystal skulls? Well, I have one to share, which I think your viewers will see basically what we're talking about. So this is a piece of smoky quartz crystal that was brought out of the ground in Brazil. I received this skull as a gift in 1999 at a crystal skull conference in Sedona, Arizona. It was a gift from an ex-wife. So it looks like, you know, a human bone skull made out of quartz crystal. Originally, these skulls, when they first came out in the late 1800s and early 1900s, that's primarily what they were finding by ancient ruins in Mexico and Central America. They were made out of quartz crystal. Some were clear quartz. Smoky quartz is more of a gray, black quartz. They have amethyst, which is a purple quartz, which actually was the first crystal skull I saw that was made from amethyst, and rose quartz. And now the modern carvers today who are making these are making them out of every gemstone that you can imagine. So all of them are crystal skulls. There's basically 4 types of crystal skulls that are known in the world today. There is the modern ones like what I showed you, and this skull has a name. It's called Portal de Luz, which for your Hispanic speaking people, you know exactly what that means. In English, it means portal of light. We wanted to give it a Portuguese name primarily because the carver is Brazilian and they speak Portuguese in Brazil. So, and plus, how can I explain this? There's now you may not believe this, but this is not just my experience, but also the experience of many other people who we call crystal skull guardians. They have a living consciousness that works through it. So Portal de Luz has a personality, and he's kind of comedian. Like sometimes when we do our presentations, believe it or not, I dance with him. He's 10 pounds. He's not so easy to hold and carry, but then I throw him a little bit in the air. I've never dropped him, and that's the way that we dance. But really, when we're doing our dance, it's more like a celebration of life. Because for me, having seen many crystal skulls in over 37 years, which has been April of 1983 when I saw my first one, I believe that they are a very powerful tool for awakening consciousness, for waking people up to their divine presence, for their spiritual gifts, and a lot of healing. So let me go back to my definition again of the 4 different types. It's very easy to move from one place to another with them because I've had many different types of experiences with them, which I'll try to share a little bit so you get more of a feel of what happens when you become a crystal skull guardian. So we have the modern ones being made by modern carvers, What they do is they use diamond tip tools in order to carve them, because especially quartz crystal is a very hard substance. So you have to have a substance like diamond, which we consider to be the hardest, to be able to cut through. And when they have those tools, it cuts through the quartz like butter. Because I've actually watched with Portal de Luz, he had some cracks and some things that happened from my traveling with him all over the world. A carver in Switzerland did a little minor repair, and I just, was amazed at how quickly he could go in and fix things. The second classification of crystal skulls that exist are called old crystal skulls, which are ones that were made over 100 years to maybe 1,000 or 2,000. Depends upon which crystal skull researcher you're talking with. These tend to be not as sophisticated, more primitive looking, but for many of the indigenous people in Mexico and Central America, they consider them sacred tools. They do ceremony with them, and they do healing. The shamans work with them. And then the next category are called ancient crystal skulls, or I call them very old skulls, which would be ones that would be over 2,000 years in their creation. The challenge is we have no way to really be able to date, let's say scientifically or archaeologically, how old a crystal skull is, because the material it's made from, like for example, if you go into an ancient ruin and you want to date artifacts, they have to be organic artifacts with carbon, I think it's called carbon 12 dating, the decay of the carbon atom, carbon 14. Well, I was close. When you Right. When you get to be 65, you can't remember everything like you used to when I was younger, like you. That's the major problem. So carbon 14, right? I don't know. I must like the number 12. But anyway, quartz crystal is inorganic. So one of the ways that we have to know, like maybe a history about these very old skulls, is legends are talked about them by the indigenous people. And then also, we're talking about multi-dimensional realities and spirit here on this show. We work with spiritual mediums or sensitives, and they can link into the history of the artifact. And especially with quartz, Portal de Luz talks to me, calls me Dad. He said, Dad, remember, we get to record everything that goes on around us vibrationally. So if a person is a medium or a sensitive, they can go into the crystal skull, who has the memory of everything that's gone on around it, and start to read it and be able to know kind of like a history about where did it come from. Now, there is one other thing related to the very old skulls that I'm talking about, and that is, could they be gifts from the gods? The gods would be our cosmic brothers and sisters. I don't like to call them extraterrestrials. I call them galactics. Okay. And I'm going to reveal to you who I really am on a soul level, since we're speaking about galactics. I've met a lot of people who call themselves star people or crystal children or whatever, and they remember coming from other planets, not from the Earth. Now, that's not my case. I have resonated to what an early UFO contactee called George Hunt Williamson from the 1950s wrote about, which are cosmic wanderers. These are the cosmic chimney sweeps who travel from planet to planet to bring them into the light. And this is what I sense. I don't really sense like I have a specific planet that's my home, but I have a sensing that I've visited many planets, and that the galactics are very well aware of who I am. Although I constantly telepathically talk with them and say, it might be good in an isolated location that I happen to be, if you would kind of show up more in the physical so we could meet, because I'm only having the sensing of their presence around vibrationally and telepathically. But I guess we're not quite yet ready for that time. Although I know for a fact, and I was trying to think of a wise American saying, but I can't do it again because of my 65-year-old memory. But I know for a fact that there are governments on this planet who are having direct contact with the galactics, all kinds of galactics, positive, neutral, and those that are not so pleasant. But that's another story. But anyway, I think that some of these beings actually gifted crystal skulls to some of these Mesoamerican and indigenous people, which became a sacred tool for them that they started to use and to work with. plus, the other thing is, when I was in Brazil and I was meditating with a crystal skull, I had a vision that on board spacecraft, they have their own crystal skulls, which are vibrationally linked to the ones on the Earth. So they're able to see what's going on here through the crystal skulls, sort of like their video cameras. So I'm just trying to give you a sensing of what these crystal skulls are about, what they entail, what's possible. Okay, the last category of skulls is apported crystal skulls. So I don't know if any of you understand what an apportation is, but we actually have a little tiny skull that was apported through a spiritual medium in the Seattle area. It's where an object comes from nowhere into our reality. Now, in the case where this little crystal skull came that was apported, it came through the medium's mouth along with like 30 or 40 other gems and jewels. And he said there was an energy vortex where spirit would push these objects through into our reality. I've been to another place where they were working like in a circle on a wooden table with a glass jar in the center and crystals on the side. And there were objects that just dropped onto that table while they were doing their seance. So this is another form of apportation. So I had a chance to touch some of those objects as well. So these are the four types. So the modern ones made by modern carvers, the old ones, the very old or ancient ones, and the apported ones. But the key for me is, and the reason why I've been involved for 37 years, well, number one, they're fascinating. Number two, there's new experiences that happen all the time. And I am an Aries, so if I don't have variety and new experiences, I get bored. And other Aries out there, I'm sure you recognize that very well. But also, too, the energies that they hold is tremendous healing energy to help planet Earth go into a higher vibration, which is what the transformation into the Aquarian Age or the Golden Age is all about. And that's actually what's really happening right now. Even though we're locked down, we're not allowed to go out. In some places, you have to wear masks. Thank God here in Georgia, we are not have to wear it because I will not do that. Finances is going crazy and all this. This is just the beginning of the end of the old and the beginning of the new. So the crystal skulls, or at least the first one that I met, which was an amethyst skull called me, it said to me, we were very prevalent on the earth many thousands of years ago. We worked very closely with humanity. But then there came a period of time where we had to hide because I guess the vibration lowered and we went into a chaotic moment. But now we're returning and we're going to work with humanity to help to create world peace. So that is the key message that I think the skulls are doing. So what they're doing right now is basically people who are drawn to them, or maybe you saw the Indiana Jones film, the last one, where they had one main skull which turned into 13 skulls. Okay, so why did Spielberg and Lucas decide to do it? It was because it's based on the possibility that there may actually be 13 main crystal skulls that were gifted to the earth a long time ago that have been hidden, which may be coming back. So there's actually a story I wrote about that possibility. So maybe one day it'll be a movie or something, who knows. But I believe that they are a catalyst for bringing forward a harmonious and peaceful energy and for helping to activate people to come more into their divine state, more in touch with their spirit and so on. That's what they're about. Okay, so now I'm going to move to the paranormal a bit. There are a couple of, how can I phrase it, key concepts, key ideas, after being involved in this for so many years, that have come to me, which I think are profound truths. So see if any of these make sense to you, and maybe you can incorporate them into your life. So the first one I want to talk about is, I asked whoever's listening to me, whether it's creator or my spirit guides or galactics or dimensional beings or nature beings or whatever, I said, creator has the ability to imagine every conceivable reality that's possible. So what does creator receive through each of us as an individual? I mean, if creator can think of every possibility, how do we I mean, I know we benefit from Creator's love and that He's given us this great planet and the reality and the experiences that we can have on many levels. But what does Creator receive from us? And the answer I heard was, your experiences, of course. But what does that mean? Well, even though there may be parallel Earths and parallel dimensions and other aspects of your multidimensional self making different choices, you know, like in America, we had this TV show called Sliders. I don't know if it went all over the world, but every week they would go through a dimensional door and they would go to a parallel Earth where things were some similar, some completely different, but there were alternative aspects of themselves there. And sometimes they would meet their counterparts. So the key for Creator, as I understand it, is that, and this is very important if you totally get this message, is that we're each unique and we each have a unique set of experiences. And unless Creator decides to do what was done in the Matrix movie where they started everything over, they recreated the human city and everything by the machines, if that happens. But this is the only opportunity that Creator gets to experience the uniqueness of who you are. Now, the significance of that is nothing is good or bad. You know, it's just about your experience and your choice. So you have an experience you like. Are you going to do it again? Most likely. You have an experience you don't like. Are you going to do it again? Most likely you won't. Okay. Or maybe you need to go through it several times to learn something. But the key is it's not good or bad. It's the experience of life. So the key is if you free yourself up to say, okay, on some level, before I was born, my soul said, I'm going to be this person and I'm going to have these kind of experiences. Then dive into it. Don't keep thinking, well, what are other people going to think? Are they going to think bad about me? Do I have to change? No, you know inside of yourself and you can feel it, you know it, you have a dream about it, whatever way it's communicated, what flows for you and what is totally correct. Now, here's another idea I want to share with you. When you are spontaneous means you're not planning something, all of a sudden there's like this energy that takes you over. You just feel you need to do something and you go with it. Okay. That is the opportunity when Creator can express Him, herself, the most powerfully through you on the earth, when you are spontaneous. When you're thinking and stopping yourself from being yourself and stopping yourself from expressing your joy and your creativity, then Creator cannot come through. But when you're just open, it's almost like being a child, then major experiences can happen. Amazing energies can come through. Okay, so the key is like take a weekend. This is what I suggest. I do sessions for people, intuitive sessions, and I suggest this to them. So I suggest it to you. So take a weekend, a Saturday or a Sunday, go out into your favorite place where you feel good energy and just give yourself permission to do whatever it is that you want to do, that you feel to do. I mean, you might feel like to dance or to sing or just be in nature, whatever it is. I particularly think a good experience is when you have one of your most favorite music where you have to dance to it. You don't say, well, I'm 65 and I'm too old and I'll look ridiculous. No, go into it, just dance to it. Let that joy come through you. This is another way of being spontaneous and how to express that. And the key is it's like riding a bicycle. Remember when we were young and taught how to ride a bicycle? How many times did we fall off? A lot, right? Well, it's something that you have to practice until it becomes a natural part of yourself. So once you start doing it, like there was one time I was living in Las Vegas and I didn't have very much money. I didn't know what was going to happen to me. And I listened to a song, Rock Me Amadeus by an Austrian group, Falco. And I just totally let myself go. And the energy and the joy that came through me was unbelievable. And I never forgot that. And so this is, to me, was one of the keys. All you can do is try these things, and eventually you're going to find what works for you, because not everybody has everything that you think. Let's see. So those would be two things from a paranormal perspective that I would suggest, think about it, see if it makes any sense to you. Of course, we all have spiritual gifts, intuition, feeling, vision. So the key is to trust that and see what happens to you. You know, again, our logical mind, for example, will stop ourselves. We'll get this inspiration or an idea, and we'll go, no, that's too crazy. I can't do that. What will people think? But actually, it's been given to you by spirit because it would open up so many incredible doors into your life if you just let go and go for it. I mean, think about it this way. What's the worst thing that could happen to you if you tried something crazy? Nothing will change, right? You'll still be the same. But what's the best thing that could happen to you? Everything could change. So is it worth it to try it? What do you have to lose? So, I think these truths are pretty simple. And life really is about simplicity and balance. Like, regardless whether you're a man or a woman, you have masculine energies, you have feminine energies. Masculine energies is more logical, scientific. Feminine energies is more feeling and emotional and intuitive. But you need both. What I normally do is I wake up each day and I'm listening, which is the feminine. Is there a suggestion of something I should do today? And sometimes I get nothing. Sometimes something will come, oh, yeah, that would be fantastic. And then I got to figure out what to do once I'm given the suggestion. So I hope this conversation and these ideas have given some thought. Now, the last part is I want to talk about what's happening now. Now, this is not such an easy thing to do because, first of all, this is what I did, is while I'm sitting around doing nothing, which was probably back in May or June, first of all, I complained to whoever was listening to me, creator, my spirit. I'm sitting here doing nothing and I'm sitting on a ton of information. I really would like, to start sharing, but I can't travel, so I can't do my public presentation. So what happened? One of the most famous radio shows you can be on in the United States called Coast to Coast. All of a sudden I'm on there. And since that time, I have been doing interviews like 3 or 4 a month. And the only time I can remember doing so many was when the Indiana Jones film came out and they said, oh, Joshua Shapiro's involved with Crystal Skulls. We should interview that guy. And I had a ton of interviews before the movie came out. Most of them, fortunately, were positive, but I was prepared for people to laugh at me and say I was crazy and so on. Didn't bother me, So, but anyway, that was a good experience, but it's happening again. So that was the first thing. The second thing that I asked of Creator or Spirit is I said, I really want to understand what's happening right now because I know that, okay, so this is my opinion. I can't prove this. I don't have any whistleblowers that I know that I can tell you this. I mean, I'm watching YouTube videos like probably all of you, and I'm talking to other people and so on. There is no way, and I'll explain to you how I know that this is true. There's no way that all these people are getting sick and dying from this virus. It is impossible. Now, let me explain to you why I know this. Okay. When I lived in Las Vegas, I think it was in 1990 or 91, maybe 1990. I was minding my own business, walking down a major street, and the cars were driving very fast on this street. And I heard a loud screech behind me, and I always think I'm always protected, so I didn't bother to turn around. And the next thing I know, my vision is going from light to dark, and I wake up 2 days later and I'm strapped to a hospital bed in the hospital with a doctor asking me, do you remember the truck that hit you? And I'm going, is this person insane? What are they talking about? But then I didn't stop to think about how did I get in the hospital and what was I doing in this bed and why was I strapped down? Then eventually I came back the next day. So I think I was hit on a Thursday and I really came back on a Sunday. But I remember now a part of what happened to me and why I needed to be in a coma. So are you ready for this? Okay. Are you ready, Myrna? You're shaking your head? Okay. I had to go to a meeting where there were many cosmic beings. The only way I can describe this is if you ever saw the first Star Wars movie, not the one that came out, but in the series, where Princess Amidala goes to the planet Trantor, and she's speaking to all these beings from all over the universe, okay, in a chamber. I was at a meeting like that. And what I sensed was happening at this meeting was they were talking about us, the earth, their brothers and sisters on the earth, how we're struggling and we're working very hard to evolve and get more in touch with our spiritual part and our divine part and all the challenges we had. And they loved us and they wanted to help us. But they needed to have some, I guess I was in my light body because my physical body was in the hospital. They needed to have souls that were incarnated on Earth who could listen to their ideas, because if you don't live on a planet, you don't know how things work there. You can't understand it. You know, it's like going to a foreign country. You can't understand their language and you don't know what their customs are. Especially indigenous people, their customs are almost like otherworldly. So they needed, and I'm sure there were other people that this happened to, they needed feedback. And somehow I was there to watch and give feedback. But in the meantime, it means I saw what they were planning to do. I saw what was going to happen in the future. Okay. But as I recall coming back, there was like this door in front of me and it was dark on the other side. I just knew if I go through that, I go back to Earth. And there was a masculine person, is all I can say. I don't know if it was human or extraterrestrial, but I know it was a man, a masculine person. And I'm begging him, please don't blank my memory. There's such great stuff. If I could remember this, I could tell people and help them to prepare. No, we're very sorry. You're not allowed to remember this. However, I will tell you, as things begin to happen on your earth, you will recognize them because you already saw them, and you'll know what's true and what's not true. So if you believe that that actually happened to me, and that is my interpretation of it, and there's a lot of other stuff I do not remember, and I don't know when I will remember it. It doesn't seem to matter what I try to do. Okay. But I know for a fact, as soon as I saw the pandemic, as they called it, coming to the United States, and all of a sudden they were talking about all these people, I just said, nope, this is not possible. Now, I think this is what happened. When they released it in China initially, I saw some video from people in China, and there were a lot of people who were getting sick. Okay, it was very serious. But I think that it has mutated. And a matter of fact, here in the United States, I don't know what the CDC represents, what those letters represent, but it's a medical organization. They were originally talking about 180,000 people had died. Now all of a sudden, oh, we made a mistake. We haven't diagnosed it properly. It's only about 9 or 10,000 now. Okay, so there's too many inconsistencies around the explanation that the major media is giving us that this is not true. And it was very clear they're doing this. Whoever planned this, they created it. I've heard from some people that this virus is patented, so it means they created it. They did it to lock us down and have more control for other things. But what I want to tell you is that regardless of whatever their plans are, they have already lost and it is not working. Now, how do I know this? Okay, so in 1996 or 1997, I'm in Brazil and I have my future self in this lifetime talking through me. He's writing and he's talking about the future. And in this future, and it's between 2037 and 2040, that's not that far away. Everything is totally peaceful. The galactics are walking amongst us. All the adults are parents to all the children. There's total peace and harmony. We can go visit the galactics worlds. Okay. The children are surrounded by love. It is a completely different world. It's like paradise. It's probably like what it is in so-called heaven or the higher dimensions. Okay. And so then I looked for, how can I validate that this isn't totally my imagination and fantasy? Because, you know, we all want this, okay, but we have no idea how can we make that happen with the mess and the conflicts and the chaos that's going on right now. So there's something called Project Looking Glass. I watched a video on YouTube. Mr. Wood was interviewed by Carrie Cassidy, who talks to all these people about conspiracies and black projects and everything. And I'm sure there's a lot of that is true, but you have to watch it and decide for yourself because some of it is absolutely fantastic. So So she's talking to this guy, Mr. Wood, who has been involved in this. Now, Project Looking Glass is a device, and I think it was created in the 60s and 70s. Parts of it, he said, came from the Stargate systems they have. So if you've ever seen Stargate, SG-1 or any of those shows, they already have these Stargates. It's true. They travel through space and time. They probably were gifted it by the Galactics or whoever they're working with. So they took parts from that and they created a device where you could go into its presence and it would show you potential futures based on what it is you're thinking you want to do. So the simplest example I can give is, let's say you want to start a new company and you have like 10 different ideas. You don't know which one is going to work the best. So you go in front of Project Looking Glass, think about each one. It shows you what's going to happen and you'll see which one you want to go. Now, obviously, the people who created this weren't creating it so that they could create a positive future. They were doing it for their own purposes, selfish purposes, to see what would happen if they did something. Now, Mr. Wood said, and I think he said this, but I'm not totally sure, around December 21st, 2012, when the Mayan calendar ends. By the way, when the Mayan calendar ends, it restarts. It's not the end of the world, obviously. It's just a new calendar, a new cycle is starting for the Mayans. That's all that it was. So around that time, I think he said that when people would work with Project Looking Glass, it would only show them one future. Okay. And it wasn't the future that the people who had this device wanted people to see. So they're not allowing anyone else to use it. So it had to be a positive future. Okay. So this is why I know, and I can only imagine, that we'll have a positive future. Now, you may agree or disagree with this. Again, there's no way I can prove it. But I believe that there is, how can I say this without getting too graphic? There is a conflict that's going on between good and evil right now. Okay. And good has already won. And it has been helped by positive galactics. And it has been misuse of humanity by not so nice galactics for many years. And this is now ending. President Trump is involved with people who are taking care of this. This is why, for a lot of people, they don't understand a lot of things he's saying because he's saying certain things which are code for other people. This is why the American election coming up is the most important in the world. All I can tell you is he has already visited almost all the major leaders in the world. And basically he said, if you don't work with us for peace on the planet, there's information we have that will make you look not so nice that we will release. And so pretty much everyone is kind of following and going with him. There's a new money system that they're saying also is going to come out. There's an advanced computer called QFS, gifted by the Galactics to us. I don't know if I saw that in my coma experience or not, but they say it's already online. If that is true, then the wealthy bankers, the cabal, whatever you want to call them, deep state, whatever name resonates with you, elite, they have so many names, they can't steal money anymore. It is impossible with this new system. And eventually, all the major currencies are going to be backed by gold in the future. Take too long to explain all of that. So paradise, the clue of paradise coming that my future self has been talking about, there are things going on behind the scene. Now, obviously they can't talk about any of this because the other side is listening and trying to figure out, is there anything we can do to stop it? And they cannot. This is a plan that's been going on for more than 20 years. And the new financial system is being called NESARA, or just SARA for the global, NESARA for the United States. I read the document of it. People will not lose their money. Here in the US, one of our current dollars will be exchanged for one of the new dollars. It will not be coming from the Federal Reserve. It'll be coming from the Treasury, which Trump is in charge of. So if you feel intuitively or something that maybe there's some truth to what I'm talking about, the key message that has been repeated by a number of people, which I agree with, is the news is fake. It's giving you a scenario which is not true. Just go day by day, stay in the positive, be an example of the light for other people, listen to your guidance, meditate. You have time now, meditate, um, and be ready, because if this indeed is happening, then okay, I have a guide over here saying very strongly now. Then the light workers, what you really came here to do, be ready. It's going to start happening very soon. Okay. Sooner than you think. Okay. Oh, I have chills when I say that. Seriously. Sooner than you think. Is that right, Portal? Yep. He's saying absolutely. Okay. So there is a positive future ahead. Do not give your power away. I mean, I'm just at peace. I'm just going with the flow. And actually, there are something new projects I'm starting, which could be very interesting. I have no idea where it's going to go. But the prosperity of the universe is coming back to the people. That would be the easiest ways to say it. Okay, so those are the things I wanted to share. So now you're an expert on Crystal Skull. You kind of know what God receives from you, or Creator receives from you. And you have a little bit of an idea that there is a lot of positive stuff going on underneath the fake news. So,
Joshua, thank you. We truly appreciate the fact that you have dedicated so much time to bring a message of optimism, and that definitely to me it's a game changer. Let's focus on the positive, and I'm optimistic myself, and I do believe that the good will always win, because we can only evolve, right? There is no way in which we can go back in our evolution. Let's incorporate to our conversation a question that is being made by Aaron Montes de Oca. He's watching us from Mexico, and he's asking via
hola, señor.
Via Facebook, can we know our futures, our potential futures, based on the present time?
Well, okay, yeah, that's right. Again, I hear something. If you want to know what you're here to do, it's very simple. What makes your heart sing? Do you know the answer to that? Obviously, for me, sharing information, researching, having adventures, not letting my crystal skull tell me all the time what to do. These are the things that I like, okay? Writing books is very interesting. Speaking. So whatever it is that you love to do, that is your future. That's what you came here to do. Now, you may have dreams where you may see some of this. You may have an intuition, like especially right now, as we're going through this very transformational time, you may get all kinds of inspiration to start things that you never thought you could do before. Okay, so this is kind of showing you the future. But remember, as divine children of God, oh yeah, this was one of the other things I received one time. You can only imagine something if it already exists somewhere in Creator's infinite universe. So whatever you can imagine, it already exists, which means that it's possible to be done. So like, if some amazing idea comes to you and you go, oh, this is too fantastic, I could never do it. I can't think of a good way how to say no on that. We each have in our country a different way of kind of saying, for God's sakes, no, but in a more dramatic fashion. But I don't want to do that, what we would say in America. But anyway, we need that inspiration right now. I mean, every one of us can have a creative idea that comes to us that can help to build the positive, peaceful earth that we're going towards. Okay. But the key question I find is, what makes your heart sing? Because when you're doing it, you're like singing to yourself and you're happy and you don't have a care, and you don't care what anyone else thinks about you. If they like you, they'll, what difference does it make? I'm me. I'm myself. I'm doing my best. If there are people that are supposed to hear what I have to share, great. If they don't agree, it's okay too, because we all have our own experiences. So you can get a peek into your future by knowing the answer to that question. But the key is you, and I this is the only example I can take, but I don't like the person I'm going to tell you when I say it. Bill Gates, when he had the idea for Microsoft, okay, didn't really exist what he was going to do. and he took massive and immediate action. He may have had some other help too, we don't know about, but anyway, he took massive and immediate action, and that concept of what he shared is important. So that's what you have to do. If a good idea comes, don't say, it's impossible and forget about it. No, go with it. See where it takes you. Again, you have nothing to lose by it. So I'm just accustomed to doing that all the time. If a new idea comes, okay, great, I'm ready for it. So that would be the best way I know how to answer that question. I hope it makes sense. Muchas
That's
gracias, señor.
that's beautiful, Joshua. Thank you for sharing with us that question. Since we are on the side of optimism, from your perspective, climate change, the harm that we have been making to this planet throughout the past years, several past years, and the way we actually interact with the environment, is that something that we can recuperate? Is that something that we can trace back towards a more harmonious living?
I think what will happen is once the Earth has peace, then we will have more direct contact with the galactics. And there have been several UFO researchers who said they have advanced technologies that can solve every problem on the Earth. So I think that even though this is, a sad thing that we're disrespecting Mother Earth, who is a living being, that they will work with us through these advanced technologies, and we will bring it back to paradise. So, that's what I see. I don't see any of the problems we have today, like pollution and whatever. It's not in the future. My future self is called Argus. Argus says, no, it's paradise. It's beautiful. The galactics then want to come visit us, sit down on the grass, talk to us, tell us about their worlds. So I think, basically by doing this disregard for Mother Earth, it's teaching us lessons because it does affect our health and affects our weather and everything. So, but we will eventually fix it in the future. It won't be a bigger problem.
You make me smile with that answer. Then let's just picture our future selves, not too future, but more like a immediate future. Why not having a picnic in and breathing freely in what now we may have as a landfill? Who knows, right? The
That's
endless
right.
possibilities. Aaron is very thankful for your answer. He's replying from Mexico. He's very happy that you answered his question, and he feels very satisfied with what you said. There is another question here, and it's regarding the shape of the crystal skulls. Do you have any information about why are they shaped as skulls?
Yes, this is probably the most asked question, so you better believe I'm prepared to answer it. Okay. So first, let's think about our own bone skull. Okay. So unfortunately, what's happened in the past, the image of a bone skull has been associated too many times with death, doom, and evil. Like, pirates use the skull, skull and crossbones, or on poison, they show this. I think I think where this comes from is in some of the Mesoamerican people who had crystal skulls, like maybe Mayans, Aztecs, Toltecs, in the later aspect of their civilizations before they totally declined. The priests didn't want people to know about the healing powers of the skulls. And so, they kind of said, only we know how to work with them. And if you try to work with them, bad things can happen to you. But what we have to also understand too is that some higher force created our form. You know, I think in this universe, the humanoid form is very popular. Even though the galactics will look differently than us, they still have a head, two arms, two legs. So some higher being created the skull. And I think it works similar to how a pyramid works, where you go 1/3 of the way down from the top point of the pyramid. It starts rejuvenating metal, and there's a special energy there. I think the shape of our skull allows us to receive cosmic knowledge and information. Okay. So it comes to our superconscious and subconscious, and then it'll eventually filter down into the actual physical brain so that we can understand these higher teachings, while we're in physical body. So that means that the skull in our body is not the only thing that's evil and the rest is okay. It means that it's a receiver for special energy and knowledge and information. Now, quartz crystal, I can't speak to all the gemstones because they each have different properties, but I resonate very much with quartz. Quartz crystal has this ability to be a transmitter and receiver for a wide range of frequencies of energy. There was a book called The House Between Worlds by Mary Bradley Zimmer, and she talked about that when a crystal goes from one dimension to another, it stays in the same shape. So it means that from the other dimensions, it brings in the information. So putting together the quartz with the crystals, with the shape of a skull, gives us a very powerful tool for healing, for storing knowledge, information, but also it's a mirror and it reflects back things about ourselves as well. So that's my understanding of why the shape of a skull.
Not little understanding. Thank you for sharing that with us. And guess what? We have reached the end of our conversation. We've been joined by people all over Latin America and the US. Before we leave, of course, if you want to share with us closing thoughts.
Well, the closing thought that I would have for each of you is you are super powerful, that what you imagine for the future being in a positive way, keep seeing it in your mind's eye. We are co-creating that future right now, and don't accept anything that tries to prevent you from doing what you love to do, or if you find out what your mission in life is, just go for it. We need all the help that we can get right now. And before you know it, we'll have paradise. They say by 2021, a lot of what I'm talking about could be in place. So let's co-create that and bring that and draw that and accept that. And then the light workers are going to have to explain to the people who are going to be in shock when all of a sudden they go from chaos to paradise. I can't accept this. No, the history's not true. I can't. We're going to have to help them. So if you're watching me right now, you're probably one of those who'll be helping the people who will be confused by all these amazing changes that are happening and will fully manifest in our reality. I'm sure of it.
Well, Joshua, we're going to have to welcome this immediate future, and light workers better get to work before we leave, of course. And we want to reiterate our gratitude and remind the people watching that Mindalia.com is an international nonprofit organization that you can collaborate with us by liking our content, subscribing to our channels in English and in Spanish. You can follow us in our different social media. You can even share our content with someone that you may think that could like we develop here. We are broadcasting on a daily basis, and when you help us, you're just helping us reach as much people in the planet as possible, and you are cooperating so we can keep broadcasting and creating the content that we have shared with you today. Nothing else to say by now. Until next time, gratitude, and we will see you again on the very, very soon Mindalia live streaming. See you soon.